Alright, welcome back to Nick Lynch's Comic Corner, Classic, Legend, Non-Classics. That was episode number 3614, Doubleshot 3508. I have two, for this video, and also got another Comic Corner to react to this one. It's going to be discussing a lot of stuff related to Ultimate Universe. But this one just discussing one trade. Next one has two trades of Ultimate Universe. First up, basically, is Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 22 Requiem. This is the final trade, the collect issues from the original Ultimate Spider-Man ongoing series for its many relaunches over the years that, well, have a tendency to last for, like, up until the last couple of volumes of Miles Morales to Spider-Man, tended to last for about almost 2 years before they decided to hit the relaunch button. For this title. As a matter of fact, it's the longest run in the history of this title, because everyone that came after this one tends to be pretty short. Like, you had the relaunch of this one be 15 issues. You had the renumbering lasted for like 11 issues. And then you had the first volume of the Miles Morales book lasting for 28 issues, I believe it was. Got relaunched as Miles Ultimate Spider-Man, that being 12 issues, and then after that it was under the Marvel Universe banner, lasting for 21 issues, and then its second renumbering it had, lasting for a whopping 7 issues, and then it got relaunched and under Sadat Ahmed after that, where it lasted 42 issues. As a matter of fact, the most recent volume for the Miles Morales book also lasted for 42 issues. Yeah, no volume has ever even matched this, and it's not the creator team's fault for this one. It's Marvel Comics, and the fact they can't keep some books lasting more than a year or two before they gotta hit that restart button. Gotta hit it. It's a common trope for them over the years. Like, in the case of DC, how many times basically in the last decade have hit the restart of books? Not many per se. I'd say probably the last major time this happened was probably Rebirth. They had a few years ago, but the last major one they had was, well, Rebirth, which was 10 years ago. They've had a few books relaunched since then. Books like Superman, Green Lantern. I know those two got relaunched. I think also Flash and Wonder Woman. Yeah, those 4 got relaunched, but they're still going. There's no sign of restarting anytime soon. But let's talk about this. Ultimatum for Spider-Man, collecting issues 129 to 133, and the 3rd annual. Also the final annual for this book. Because if you're curious though, did the relaunch volume have an annual? Nope. Renumbering? Nope. Was any volume after this had an annual released? The answer is no. None of them ever did. And if you're really curious, for the runs for Spider-Man, so for under Miles Morales, was there any annuals published under the first run? Nope. Relaunch? Nope. In Marvel Use Proper? First one? Nope. Just Miles Morales Spider-Man. They did release one annual. Yep, they did release one. In the case of the relaunch, the Kozico, which just ended recently, did that release an annual? I believe this one released one annual. So, overall, in the past 26 years, thanks to numbering of this thing, there have been only 5 annuals published, which is interesting. And 3 that are written by Brian Michael Bendis. So, by the way, some of the artwork in here, I did notice this too, where the artist for this annual, David LaFoon, I believe this is the artist who came on for the relaunch afterwards. You also have Stu doing the main issues. The annual is this. Because you can tell about the interior artwork, yeah. Anybody who read the Ultimate Comics Spider-Man book knows, like, And if they read this, like, wow, this looks like the same style artwork that was used for that book. Well, same artist. Yep. So you have MJ and Peter, where they're basically exploring a relationship. They're kind of getting back together. Peter does his own thing as Spider-Man. Tops and robbers. And then we see, I kid you not, Jessica Jones. Yeah, that's this woman is right here. That is the Ultiverse version of Jessica Jones. Yeah, Ultiverse Jessica Jones has been a little more active, has actually been less active than the 661. You're probably thinking, why is there a version of Jessica Jones in the Ultiverse? Simple. Brian Michael Bendis brought her in. That's the only reason why. Yep. We have this other guy here. And we have this really long debate. Bendis would do this at times. Basically, comes out like he would do this. This is standard Bendis. And then, of course, basically that they made this guy called Captain Frank Quid, which I wonder if this character is named after Frank Quietly, the famous artist who basically worked with Grant Morrison a lot on. There's a couple major books they work on together that I can think of. One, they worked on New X-Men. And the other being, I think it was Fleck Metallo. Yes, I read both books. I enjoy both books. So after exploring stuff with Frank Quietly, look at some footage of... By the way, I've actually been here, so I can tell you that this is actually pretty accurate. Good job for the artist basically creating this. This is Grand Central Station. And yes, I have been there a few times. So, they mentioned Shocker, we're going to deal with him. And then we actually have Spider-Man deal with the return of Mysterio. For Mysterio, this was his penultimate appearance prior to seeing him pop up in the first issue of the Ultimate Comics Spider-Man relaunch. I can tell Mysterio. Yeah, and of course, this is actually not the... In a way, the Ultiverse doesn't actually have an Ultimate version of Mysterio. This is just a robot from the 616 version. Yeah, this was a retcon from the first Spider-Man miniseries that Bendis worked on. So, yeah. So... Spider-Man saves the day. Him and MJ make out. Where MJ is in a pair of panties and a t-shirt. And the book ends in making out. Because why not? And then we have Betty Brant basically just on the scene. And then Mysterio gets out. And then he's, like I said, he's not seen again after this until the relaunch. And then for these issues in particular, some take place just prior to the events of Ultimatum. This would be Ultimatum tie-ins, but sometimes takes, and a lot take place afterwards. We open up, we see Johnny and Susan Storm just at a cafe, minding their own business in Soho, Manhattan. This is a real place. We have Pete and MJ, and once again, we still have the same style artwork from the relaunch. Yeah, I'm reading these issues and reading the relaunch. I keep thinking like, it's like, yeah. The only reason why this artist is even here is for the relaunch. Because I think Bendis knew about the relaunch coming, so he probably figured, though, bring these artists on to do the artwork, so why not? And then, of course, you have May being asked by, I think it's the principal, which I think this is one of his last appearances. So, they chat for a bit. And then we have Human Torch taking on the Vulture. And if you're going to ask, did Vulture ever take on Human Torch in 616? No, not that I know of. He did take on Electro. But Vulture? Nope, no Vulture. Not that I know of, no. So... And then Jessica Drew makes an appearance here. This, I believe, was her first appearance since, I think, the Clone Saga. Yes. And what is purpose of being here? Well, set up a potential future relationship between Johnny and Jessica Drew, because these two will not see each other again until the relaunch. And you're probably thinking, why keep saying that these issues are set up for reruns? Because that's essentially what these issues are. They're set up for the relaunch. Because I did review that. So, that's what I was Jessica Drew briefly. And then, for no particular reason, the police bring in May Parker for being suspected and brought away in what appears to be handcuffs. Now, technically, May Parker has no idea what the heck is going on. No idea. And then, of course, she's in interrogation for quite a while. Yeah, and of course, she denies Vex knows Spider-Man. She actually doesn't know him. And of course, they just interrogate her for a while. And of course, she is being possibly charged for 25 years for associated with vigilantism. Based on what exactly? And then the place starts shaking, power goes out, people disappear, and Ultimatum just happened. In issue 130. Yep, the tidal wave happened. Same thing happened in the opening issue, Ultimatum. Yep. And then, of course, basically, the tidal wave was sweeping through Manhattan. Yeah. By the way, this tidal wave was caused by Magneto due to altering the world's poles. Yep. Now, you're probably thinking, who wrote that line? Was it by Michael Bendis? Nope. Was it Mark Millar? Nope. It was Jeff Loeb. Yeah. David Finch has told me that the whole thing with Ultimatum is that David Finch probably can understand the criticism because he thinks criticism over the years. Loeb just did not give a damn. He did not care about the criticism at all. I never talked about this the couple times I met him. Jeff Loeb was a cool guy, main person. But from his perspective, he was hired to do a job, and that's what he did. He did like 2 miniseries after that, and that was it. Despite the fact those two are marketed as ongoing. Really weird. So that's far. Same people, and then we see an image from Ultimatum issue 1, where we see Magneto on his throne with Thor's hammer. You're probably asking, how the heck did he get Thor's hammer? Simple. He stole it from him in Ultimates 3. Yep. And you're probably thinking, like, why the heck would the artist recreate the ending of issue 1 of Ultimatum? Well, we gotta reference that thing. And he had to recreate the exact freaking page. Yes. Actually, it was the first time we see him in the event, because the issue actually ended with him snapping neck of Charles Xavier. And you're probably asking, why in the world would he kill Charles Xavier? No idea. Their depths in this book that made absolutely no freaking sense at all. And basically, yes, Spider-Man, same people. And he ends up working with the Hulk. There's a flashback with the Hulk in the very next issue of an early time when they worked together. And this is also one of the times where, well, yeah, also with Ultimate going on, we had this really cool image here of David Bugle underwater. And I am sure that Jonah probably had special windows built in this place, because there's flooding going on, and surprisingly, the windows are not, like, they're cracking, yes, but they're not breaking. And you see him in his office, and he's seeing, like, Spider-Man saving people underwater, and I'm like, you probably think you're looking at this page here, like, how the heck is this place not underwater, like, inside the office? Strong windows. Yeah, that's my personal theory, is that New York's buildings are built with very strong windows. They don't break under, like, I think they're probably designed, I don't think for tidal wave specifically, more like they built them for high pressure winds. And I think that this is just by pure luck that they didn't break. That's my personal theory. Then Jessica Drew comes in. Yeah, and of course he has to go call her Aunt May. He's like, you know him? It's like, yeah. And then we have Spider-Man working with the Hulk like we're friends. Yep. And they have the same people, and of course, then Spider-Man finds Daredevil dead. And then Hulk transforms back into Bruce Banner. He's like, his name's Matt Murdock. He was my lawyer. That was Ultimates 2. Yeah, and that I know that because I've read Ultimates 2 and I've reviewed it. It was one of the first 6 issues called The Trial of the Incredible Hulk, which is a nod to the action movie from the 80s. And Chris Spider wants him to kill him. He doesn't. And then we have these weird demons show up. You're probably thinking, what's with the weird demons? Well, that's due to Doctor Strange stuff going on with him. Yes. And of course, MJ punches Kitty for saying hope Peter's okay, and then Dr. Strange visits to Doctor Strange. There's weird supernatural stuff happening. And then we find him come back as a zombie, like Vessel. And then we see illusions of like the Ultimate 6. Hulk fight up against a bunch of zombies. And I see Virgin Parker, who's been long since dead. Then we see Carnage. And then with the last issue here, there's some explosions happening. Yep. And of course, Jessica reunites with Kitty. And the book ends with them finding Spider-Man's mask. Is he dead? Well, they don't confirm that until they don't confirm his fate until Ultimate Requiem. But this is pretty good. There's some slight issues with it, and it's a trope. It's most of some minor Bendis tropes, but you could say this is one of his best books that he worked on when he was at Marvel. There's no denying that. No denying that at all. But we're not done with Bendis yet. Next video, basically, we'll discuss the last trade for him for this character. But, excuse me. I get the book roughly a 9 out of 10. Final thoughts on the original run for Ultimate Spider-Man. Well, actually, I'll say that for Requiem. But I'll say this. This book was a lot of fun to review. Oh, yeah, definitely. I have now reviewed the entire book. I still got Requiem. I'm going to cover basically another book related to Ultimate Spider-Man, which is, I think, like the last book to cover for Ultimate Spider-Man, and I'm done. Yes. But we still have another Spider-Man book to cover. That being a book by late Peter David, that being Ben Reilly, the Scarlet Spider. This book collected issues 6 through 9 of Ben Reilly, Scarlet Spider, along with Stingers issue 0. What's the point of Stingers issue 0? Well, they included in here because they featured characters from Stingers. They were a group of characters who picked up costumes from Spider-Man from the Identity Crisis saga. It was a Hornet, Dust, Ricochet, and I don't remember the fourth character's name. Because they feature like 2 issues of like Peter Parker Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, and not Peter Parker. Sensational. Yes. So Will Seeley's in the artwork, yes. Will Seeley, the guy who worked with him on Spider-Man 2099. Makes sense. And then we have Marlo Chandler pop up here, except that's not Marlo Chandler. Nope. We'll get back to that. Then we have April. Yes, this old lady who Ben thinks is his aunt. And then, of course, Ben under this disguise, like, hey, I know you. Do you? Marlo Jones Chandler, Rick Jones' wife. I remember you talked to a kid with the Joneses. I'm sure you do. And she points out, though, he's Ben Reilly, the Scarlet Spider. He denies it, but... And then we discover later who she really is. And then Kane pops up here. Yes, Kane. The other Scarlet Spider. The man who started the first Scarlet Spider ongoing. Then, of course, Ben acts a bit reckless. Gets in a fight with basically Kane. Yes, and then after saving his life, of course, then we discover Marlton Chandler is actually Lady Death. Now you're probably thinking, why in the world is Death in this book? Why is she here? Well, she's interested in Ben Reilly. Just like how she was interested in Deadpool. Despite the fact the only guy who really wants her is Thanos. Yeah. It's like, so you're Death. Yes, the cosmic entity Death. That's right. Wow, you really suck. I get that a lot. Yeah, she may suck, but she's got a great body. Yeah, and of course Ben remembers, oh yeah, Thanos that thing. It's like you were It Couple. Yeah, referencing Thanos. And they go to this other place. It's pretty weird. And then he kicks her in the face for some random reason. I got over. And then we jump to after the events Secret Empire in issue 8. Yes, issue 8. Where they have Ben and Kane talking for a bit. Then we jump to after Secret Empire because Secret Empire was happening at this point in time. And Peter David's like, nah, I'm not having my book tied to Secret Empire. I'm sure he probably was asked. He's probably like, I'll pass. I hate how my books enter because tie-ins. But this is fine. What happens after Secret Empire, where Vegas is basically wrecked? Thanks to frickin' Hydra! Yep. And then Hornet shows up. Oh, by the way, this is the original Hornet who's come back to life. Despite the fact the man is supposed to be dead, he got killed by a rampaging Wolverine. Which, when he died, people thought he was Spider-Man. And Nick Fury's like, no, that's not Spider-Man. He's the Hornet. Yep. Of course, the little girl who was sort of like the daughter of Ben's love interest in the book. And of course, Hornet thinks he's a hero, but, well, Ben doesn't take him seriously. Now you're probably thinking, why in the world would Peter David include the Hornet in his Ben Roethlisberger's Aspire book? You're probably thinking, did he write Stingers? No, it was written by somebody else. That was written by Joseph Harris and Adam Palila. That's who wrote basically Stingers. And then here's Ricochet. Yes. Now you're probably thinking, how the heck do I know this guy's name? Aside from look at the writing as what he says his name is. Well, because basically I've read a lot of comic books. That's why I know who this guy is. So, he does ask the obvious question, why is Eddie alive? And then we have this red-haired woman who's very stunningly beautiful. And she goes by the name of Miss Plotnik. It's like, no bags, I travel light. And who is this woman, may I ask? Why, it's Death, again. Yeah, and of course he points out, you're not Spider-Man. And Ben's like, I never said I was. I'm the Scarlet Spider. And then, of course, basically... Oh, so the girl's name is Misty. Yes. Yeah. Then randomly we have Ricochet just walk out with no shoes on. We have dust show up. Yes, that is dust. Well, that's the original. It's not the one from over in the pages. So it looks like and we have the spiral-like stuff. Yeah, that's associated with the Cancerverse. And there's also this guy here. These are the 4 identities. These are 4 costumes. So I think that's Prodigy, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's Prodigy. So pretty much they bring the 4 characters together. Dusk, I think she's dead. Prodigy is still alive because at one point he was in charge of Revive Initiative during Fear itself, and then nothing. Yep. The whole thing with this issue here, just bringing everybody together. And they brought together a mysterious person who later find out is Golden Age superhero Black Marvel. And it's a white guy. Yeah. But this book is pretty good. Give roughly 9 out of 10. Yep. Still got a little while to go before I finish up. Ben Roll's Scarlet Spider. If you're curious, how long was that book? 25 issues. Yeah, that was probably fine. If you're curious, was that longer than the previous Scarlet Spider book? Yes, by about 2 issues. Yep. But yeah, that's pretty much a particular video. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, notifications. Next up, another comic corner. Again, next video. Bye.